At exactly 2:03 a.m., a single dad hears a knock on his door and finds a barefoot, shivering young woman, whispering, "You feel familiar." She has no name, no memory, but somehow knows his daughter. What begins as an act of kindness unravels into a chilling mystery involving a vanished lover, a hidden child, and a past that was never buried. The truth she carries will tear open secrets 10 years deep, and nothing in his life will ever be the same again. Keep watching, because the final twist will leave you speechless. The wind howled outside, dragging dead leaves across the porch like dry whispers. Inside his small home on the outskirts of Richmond, Virginia, Ethan Clark sat hunched at the kitchen table, shoulders slumped, eyes fixed on a stack of overdue bills. The quiet hum of the refrigerator was the only sound, until the ancient wall clock above the microwave clicked over to 2. He rubbed his eyes and leaned back in his chair, exhausted. The day had been long. Lila had a nightmare again, crying about her mom, asking questions he didn't have the strength to answer. He ran a hand through his unkempt hair, letting out a slow breath, when suddenly 3 soft, almost hesitant knocks echoed from the front door. He froze. His first instinct was denial, probably the wind. Then again, knock, knock. Ethan stood up slowly, each step toward the front door, careful, wary. His neighborhood was quiet, safe, at least it used to be. He peeked through the peephole. What he saw made him blink hard and look again. A young woman stood outside, barefoot on the icy porch, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. Her skin was pale, lips nearly purple, and she wore what looked like a thin hospital gown or some kind of loose, torn fabric. Over her shoulders was a flimsy blanket, soaked from mist. Ethan's heart pounded. There was something unsettling about her stillness. She didn't knock again. She just stood there, trembling, eyes wide. It wasn't just fear in those eyes. It was confusion, desperation, and something else. Recognition. He unlatched the chain lock and cracked the door open. Cold air rushed in. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice low and cautious. She didn't answer immediately. Her eyes were locked on his face, like she was trying to remember something. Then she whispered, almost too softly to hear, "You feel familiar." Ethan's brows pulled together. "Do I know you?" he asked. I don't know. I don't know where I am. Please." Her voice cracked. "Don't shut the door." Every instinct told him to be careful. It was late. Lila was asleep in the next room. A stranger on the porch, disoriented, barefoot, wearing something that looked like a patient's robe. It had all the red flags of a bad story in the making, but the way she looked at him, not like a threat, like someone lost, like someone who needed help and didn't know how to ask for it. He made a decision, a quiet one he'd later realize would change everything. "Come inside," he said. "Just for now." She stepped in slowly, flinching from the warmth, as if it stung her skin. Up close, Ethan noticed how young she looked. Maybe 20, 21. Her hair was tangled, her feet dirty and bruised, and her arms were scraped, like she'd fallen or been running. He offered her the couch and grabbed a blanket from the hallway closet. "Sit," he said. She did. Her hands trembled as she took the blanket. "Do you need a hospital? Police?" Her eyes shot up, alarmed. "No," she said quickly. "Please, don't call anyone. I think someone was following me." Ethan hesitated. "Who?" She shook her head. "I don't remember. Everything is just shadows." Her voice wavered, but there was no lie in it. Whatever had happened to her, she wasn't making it up. Just then the soft creak of a door interrupted them. Lila's tiny figure appeared in the hallway, holding her stuffed raccoon. "Daddy," she mumbled sleepily. "Who's that?" The woman turned to look at Lila, and froze. Her entire expression changed. Her eyes widened, not in fear but in awe, and then something strange happened. She whispered, "I've seen her before." Ethan stood up straighter, every part of him alert. "What do you mean?" he asked. "In my dream," the woman said, tears starting to form. "I saw her. Your daughter. She was in it." Ethan's breath caught in his throat, and in that moment, everything ordinary about this cold winter night shattered into something he couldn't yet explain. Ethan gently led Lila back to bed, reassuring her that everything was fine. She clung to his hand for a moment longer than usual before whispering, "She's pretty," and curling under her blankets with her raccoon. He kissed her forehead and returned to the living room where the mysterious woman now sat, wrapped in the oversized blanket, staring at the flames in the fireplace like they were whispering secrets only she could hear. She was silent for a while, her knees pulled tightly to her chest, her eyes flickering with something he couldn't read, like she was trying to put together a puzzle with missing pieces. Ethan handed her a cup of warm tea, and she took it gratefully but with trembling hands. "You said you don't remember your name," he said carefully, sitting across from her. She nodded. "I don't. I remember waking up cold, alone. There were trees. I was lying on leaves and dirt. My head was throbbing." She closed her eyes, trying to recall. "It felt like I was crawling through a dream. Then I saw a light. Your porch light." He leaned forward slightly. "Do you know how you got there? Were you in a car crash?" "No," she said immediately. "I wasn't driving. I don't think I even own a car." He waited. She took a shaky breath. "I remember flashes. A room with bright lights, white walls, someone holding my arm down, a buzzing sound. I think they were experimenting on me. I can't remember faces, only pain. And then I was in the woods." Ethan's jaw tightened. She wasn't just confused, she was traumatized. He considered calling the police again, but something about her plea earlier echoed in his head. "Don't call anyone." He studied her. She looked at home in his living room strangely. Her eyes scanned the walls like they weren't unfamiliar. Her gaze paused on a framed photo of Lila when she was a baby. Something in her expression softened. "She's so beautiful," the woman murmured. "I feel like I know her. That's Lila, my daughter." "She has your eyes," she said softly. Ethan froze. She shouldn't know that. Not unless. He got up, walked over to the shelf, and picked up a photo. It was buried behind more recent ones. A 10-year-old picture of him and Anna, the only one he kept. Her face was partially faded from the frame, but unmistakable. Ethan held it out to the woman. "Do you recognize her?" he asked. He tucked the picture carefully, holding it like something sacred. Her face drained of color as she studied it. Her eyes widened, and then filled with tears. "That's her," she whispered. "I don't know how, but I know her. I've seen her face, not in a memory, in dreams, and sometimes in mirrors, like a reflection that isn't mine." Ethan stared at her, stunned. Anna had disappeared 10 years ago without a trace. She had been pregnant when she vanished, but Ethan had never known what became of the child. The timing, the resemblance, it couldn't be. This girl was too young to be Anna. But what if? He didn't speak the thought out loud. It felt too big, too insane. "Do you know your birthday?" he asked gently. "No," she said. "But I think I'm 19. Ethan's heart stopped. That matched the timeline. Perfectly. She looked up at him, her voice trembling. "Why do I feel like I belong here?" He didn't have an answer. But deep inside something shifted. A seed of impossible truth began to take root. The next morning, while she showered and changed into a set of clean clothes he'd found in a storage box, Ethan quietly collected a hair strand from the couch and sent it for a DNA test at a private lab. He told no one, not even her. It would take 2 days to confirm what he already feared. The girl sleeping on his couch wasn't just a stranger. That evening she was drawn again to the family shelf. She picked up a framed sonogram photo, one Anna had mailed him months before vanishing. The image was grainy, barely visible, but she held it like it was the missing part of herself. "She used to read me a story," the girl said. "It had a rabbit and a silver spoon. I can't remember the words, just the voice. Soft, kind. I hear it in my sleep." Ethan sat on the edge of the armrest, barely breathing. "That's the same story I used to read to Anna," he said. She wanted to pass it on. The girl closed her eyes. Then she did. But something ancient and unsaid began knitting itself between them. A bond neither of them understood, yet both felt deeply. The past wasn't buried. It was returning in the form of a girl who shouldn't exist, but somehow did. And the truth was rising fast, ready to rewrite everything. Ethan barely slept that night. He lay on the couch opposite the girl who had curled up like a child under the thick blanket, her breath soft and steady now that the fear had faded. But for Ethan it hadn't. His mind spiraled through memories he thought he'd locked away forever. Anna's sudden disappearance, the unanswered calls, the weeks of searching until everyone told him to let go. They never found a body, no notes, no remains, no closure. But now, the private lab emailed the DNA results earlier than expected. Ethan opened the message alone in the hallway, the screen casting a faint glow in the dark. He read the report once, then again. Match found 99.98% probability, parent-child relationship. He staggered back a step. The breath left his lungs like a punch. It was real. The girl in his home, the one with the hollow eyes and haunted voice, she was his daughter. Not metaphorically, not maybe, biologically. Blood, bone. She was Anna's child, and his, so fragile. And yet there was a strength in her, survival etched into every movement, every scar. She hadn't just wandered into his life. She had found her way back, from something dark, something that had tried to erase her. The next morning she stood in the kitchen, pouring cereal into a bowl like she'd lived there for years. Lila giggled beside her, talking about cartoons, and the girl Evie, as she had started calling herself, laughed. It was the first time Ethan had heard her truly laugh, and it broke him a little inside. After Lila went to school, he sat her down and showed her the test results. She stared at the paper like it was in another language. "This, I don't understand," she said. "I'm your daughter." "Yes," he replied, his voice barely a whisper. "Anna was pregnant when she disappeared. No one ever told me. No one ever found her." Evie's face twisted in confusion. "I remember cold rooms, doctors with no faces, a name I was forced to say that wasn't mine, and dreams, always the same ones running, searching, a voice calling me from behind a locked door." Tears slid down her cheeks. "I thought I was broken," she whispered. "I thought I was made up, but I'm real." Ethan nodded slowly. "You're more real than anything in this house." She looked at him for a long time. "Why did I come here? Why this house?" "Because," he said, "some part of you still remembered. No matter what they tried to do, no matter what they took, something inside you brought you home." A week later the authorities arrived. Ethan had quietly reported her appearance to a private investigator he trusted. What unfolded was bigger than either of them had imagined. An illegal research facility shut down years ago, operated under the guise of medical therapy for orphaned minors, was suspected of black market identity tampering, illegal experiments, and psychological control programs. Evie was on their records under a fabricated name. She had escaped during a power outage, injured and delirious. The woods she had run through were nearly 50 miles away. Somehow she made it to Ethan's house. No GPS, no map, just a flickering memory, and a light on a porch. The moment the case became public, Ethan's phone rang non-stop. Reporters, lawyers, distant family members, who had never cared before. He ignored them all. His focus was only on her. One evening, Evie stood outside, watching the stars. Lila joined her, and held her hand. "You're like my big sister," Lila said softly. Evie smiled. "That's exactly what I am." Ethan stepped outside, hands in his pockets, watching them from the doorway. The woman who'd knocked on his door wasn't a stranger anymore. She was his second chance, his missing link. And though their beginning was painful and strange, it was real. "You ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't opened that door?" he asked. Evie looked at him. "No, because I believe you always would have. Sometimes fate doesn't ask permission. Sometimes it just knocks. And when it does, you open the door, even if it changes everything, especially if it changes everything."